2, 3. I forgot to hit the live button. Oh no. Okay. Alright, we're good. Hi. Alright, getting started. Oh my goodness. Okay, I got a few minutes to get everything ready. Um so just don't mind me. It's gonna be fine. Oh, I'm running so late. I mean, technically no, right? But back-end wise, yeah, I pressed a few buttons I should have waited on. Whoopsie daisy. Okay. Oh wait, no, am I live? No, not yet. Whew. Oh, I am live. Oh no. Okay, I'm still getting ready. I'm so sorry. Hi there. Well, I mean, I suppose it's relevant, right? Running a little late, making a few mistakes, not managing my time properly. And you know what? Thankfully, that segues into today's thing, which will be actually about time management. Now, of course, oh, yeah. If anyone wants to need help on pre-calculus or lower level math, I guess I should specify. So I'm going to try to do that from now on. Um, yes, that is what I would like to help tutor on because it's nice and fun, and it's also kind of the most boring kind of math. And it's also can be tricky, you know, for someone who hasn't really experienced um, the higher levels of math, where it's just enough that need to kind of get through on your classes, and then just kind of done with it, and you're not looking like a math major or anything. So I find these to kind of be the most engaging math to kind of help with. Yeah, let's put it that way. All right. Um, but yeah, until then, I am aware that school may still be out and not started yet, and so just like how last week I was kind of covering a topical subject, which is about book reports and how to do that process. Well, first I was setting up your environment, then I was doing the book report, and now it's going to be something tangentially related to a bit of both, because you know, time is math, time is numbers, time management. Now, that being said, what I probably should have focused on was also lesson management We're gonna wing it. Today's gonna be kind of a rough one. So yeah, just kind of a heads up on that. Might be a bit more rambly than how I normally ramble. Now just pardon me for a little bit because I think the timer that I have set up wasn't quite enough to get everything I needed done. I just need to click a few more buttons and then I should be ready. Meanwhile, yeah, okay, now we're good. See, not so bad. All right, time management. Now, why time management? Because it kind of ties into everything that we would do both in school. Well, that's a terrible misspelling. Wait, manage. Oh my gosh, am I an idiot? M-A-N-A-G. Yeah, I did. Alright, here we go. Time management. So time management is a skill, just like any other kind of skill that you would think of. Not quite like riding a bike skill, but more like practicing something that you might not be familiar with until you get really, really good at it. So like the difference between like, this is gonna sound weird, shaving. Alright, so here's time, right? And you know, you have an idea that you have so much time in the day, and then you got a face. And you got like stubble. Alright, so to varying degrees, right, when it comes to time management, there is a bit of a difference between something that's really, really well managed and something that is a bit kind of roughly and just kind of good enough, right? And then, of course, there's where you just don't manage it at all. So in those examples, if you're always finding yourself that you're running late or you're missing deadlines, or you don't feel like there's enough time in the day to kind of do all the things that you want to do, and maybe there really isn't, right? That's possible. But you really don't know how to manage it, and you just feel like you need more time, but you don't know what to do. Then that is kind of like just letting your hair grow out, and you're just like, there's all this stuff I gotta handle. I don't know what I'm doing, right? And that's one way. That's one level of time management, wherein that you just don't manage it at all. And for some people that can work if you don't have debts or obligations, if you're on vacation, if you just want to enjoy your time off. Yeah, that's totally fine, right? But I mean, there's a place and time for that. Similarly, you know, there's just like good enough time management, where it's just like, all right, I have to make these places. I'm a little late sometimes. I don't quite make everything work perfectly well, but you know what? It gets the job done, right? And that is like pretty good time management, I would say, wherein you're able to kind of have an effective program, schedule, alarms, things like that, where you just kind of have things set up and you do good enough to go on. That's totally fine too, right? What I hope to kind of cover today, though, is kind of like the really fine, fancy time management, where you're able to kind of use tools and tips and tricks, so you can have like a big old fancy mustache. Might not be something that you want. You might not want all of it. But you know what? It's the reason why people have that is because they take great care in managing those things. And you know, I guess beard oils. I don't know. There's tools, tips, and tricks that you can use to really manage your time. And those are the people that you would see like, wow, how does that guy have that cool look going on? Yeah, he looks like a fancy dude, right? Similarly, there are some people where you think, well, how does a CEO have so much time on their hands? How could they accomplish so much? How can this guy do like all these instruments, and then they study, and then they have time for fun? Like, how do they do it, right? What's the secret in the skills? Now, again, today is going to be a little bit rough because normally I have notes prepared in order to best help someone out with this sort of topic at hand. I kind of lost those today, so I'm just kind of winging it from memory, so my apologies. But this is kind of the analogy that I wanted to bring, just to kind of start with, just to be fun and silly, and that it's a skill, and you can get better at it. It's something that you can actually manage and take care of. All right. Now, how to do time management. For the nitty-gritty, Um, First, like math, you have a number to work with, right? Normally you have an equation or something like that. And here we kind of have a very simple kind of equation where there's 24 hours in a day, right? And a lot of people, they really look at this with the good enough math and the good enough management. They like, okay, I have this much time in a day to get X, Y, and Z done, right? But to be really fancy with it, there's actually a bit more time than that. Not exactly like a secret 25th hour that you can get all the things you want done or stuff like that, but it's rather than just looking at what would be relatively short term of 24 hours in a day. You could also have 7 days a week and 30 days a month. And then if you really want to go far out, you could have like 365 days a year, right? Because I think what a lot of people focus maybe a bit too much on, and I will cover this, is the 24-hour metric, assuming that you do the same thing every day, right? But that's a little bit unforgiving, I find, because when you're only limiting to yourself 24 hours a day, then you have like this regiment that's really stacked where you have to do one thing one day, another thing, another thing, another thing, another thing, and it's the same thing every single day. But also, if you miss it, then you feel like you missed the whole day's done, right? It's gone. It's less forgiving if you miss the thing that you're supposed to do at like, what time would this be? Like 9 a.m. If you miss that, then that's it. That's it for the day. There's no making up, and you're done, right? Technically, yes. However, if you expand your mindset to something like a 7-day pattern as well, and you have maybe something like an alternating schedule, or it's not just the one day that you're looking at, the single 24 hours, and you're looking at maybe a calendar week, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Yeah, that should work. So when you're looking at that calendar week, then you have less of that mindset where instead of just missing that one little sliver of that 9 a.m. thing that you have to do, it's less stressful if you do miss it out, because you can realize, oh wait, actually, I have this thing scheduled, every single day of the week. So rather than just thinking the whole day is done, you could maybe have the mindset of where I actually did it like 6 days out of 7. That's pretty good. That's a nice high percentage of accomplishment right there, right? Similarly, by expanding your view to maybe 7 days a week, when you look at time, you could have things that alternate. You could fit more things in your schedule where maybe one day you do one thing, another day you do something else, and that's how you're able to fit kind of different projects over a longer period of time. Say, for example, working out, right? Some people might limit themselves to the schedule of working out at, let's say, I don't know what's a good time. Let's try. Ooh, let's go something crazy. Let's go 8 p.m. Right right when I'm streaming. So they decide, I can't make this stream. I can't be a VTuber because I'm always working out every single day at 8 p.m. Right? Maybe that's what you want. That's what you can accomplish, and that's fine. However, if you do actually pursue physical fitness, then you would know that there's also some days in which you would need to rest. And in those days, and if you look at something like maybe a calendar week, right, it doesn't actually fill up every single day unless it's like really light exercise, like more kind of like training or something like that, I suppose. But it might be some alternate schedule where maybe you only have it like 3 days a week. Sure, why not? Right? So then all of a sudden, your time kind of frees up when you look at a longer scope of time, wherein all of a sudden that 8 p.m. thing that you have, which was an obligation that you set for yourself, now you also have this extra time that you don't know quite what to do with. And so in that, maybe you could pursue other hobbies, or you could do other things that you would enjoy, or maybe do some other kind of, I don't know, work or activity, whatever you like to. Maybe you could be lazing around. You're just like, hey, this is the day in which I catch up on my shows. And this is the time in which I want to watch my reality TV, turn my brain off, and you know what? You can schedule for that. That's fine. It's your day in which you don't work out. You know, sometimes when you work out, if you have your set schedule, you turn your brain off and you just do your motions, and then I get to really turn your brain off and you're just gonna be a couch potato. That's fine too. But the point is that you can schedule that in advance, so then you realize that it's not just an everyday obligation where if you miss, again, it's done. If you look at a week, then you have more time. Now, to kind of add on to this example, right? Because here for the 24-hour, I would say this is mostly for things like needs, and I'll explain this in a bit. 7 days is needs and wants. And month is probably wants. And I'll kind of leave the year out for now. Okay, so to build up on this example, right? If instead of looking at something that you would want to do, and you have it in the back of your mind to do it, if you look at maybe a full calendar, right? How do I do this? It's like 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, what is this, like February? 28 days? Okay, sure, why not? Okay, so if you look at something like a calendar, this is where something that you would just not only schedule maybe a regular activity, but something that's really irregular, something that you really want to do, and that you have in your mind to do, but you just haven't had time to do it. You feel like there's not enough time in the day. You're just like, oh, I can never do this because there's just no opportunity. Well, if you look at things like a calendar, then you might find that there is time, and you just didn't think of it before. Say for example, if you want to, what's a realistic example? Medical? Dental. Dental. Ooh. Hey, what's up, Trent? Not yeah, well, this is supposed to help with opening your mind to the perspective possibilities on time management. But hey, it's great to see you. And if anyone else is in chat, hi, this is Trent Deadwood. He's a great streamer. You should check him out. He's really funny. He talks a pretty good game about fighting games that we have yet to play, but he'll kick my butt. I know he will. But yes, Nami spend my time poorly every day. Well, again, that's one kind of mindset, right? Where you're kind of looking at the 24-hour day schedule, and that is for maybe your needs. But if you look at the week-long schedule, nice, nice. I dig it. I dig it. I dig it. Right on. Yeah, sure. So again, you could. Thank you for coming by. And yeah, so far what I talked about is how if you look at the 24-hour schedule, that's where people usually look at how their scheduling is. But that kind of makes you feel like if you miss one thing, the whole day is done, right? But if you open your mind to maybe like a week-long schedule, then with alternating obligations, like maybe a workout routine, it's not an everyday activity. It's like a 3 to 4 days a week activity. Then you kind of have more free time than you realize. And then also if you miss one thing that's super important for one day, but you did it for all the other days, then you shouldn't feel too bad about missing that one day, right? Being kind of forgiving on that part of time management. And another thing is when you look at something like a month-long calendar, and I was just going to start on an example where maybe it's something that you want to do, but you feel like you don't have time to do, like going to the dentist, right? Then maybe if you kind of look way in advance and you think, all right, well, hey, this is a randomly good day. I don't know if it's going to be good, but you know what? Teeth has been bothering me, and so I'm going to schedule and see that and get it handled. Cool. Well, then looking at a calendar system rather than just by hour, by day by day for week, if you look at month basis, then you can try to take care of those necessary things that maybe you felt like you never had time for and are very irregular, and you can find the time to get those done. Now, working back at the low level, how does this kind of all work as well, right? And how do we break it down and be a bit more practical with this? So for the 24-hour schedule, you should kind of look at things to schedule with your needs. And a lot of people think, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And maybe Y and Z is really important to you, but is it really something that you need? Because ultimately, when people have this time management scheduling, they start off thinking, okay, I'm going to do great, I know all I need to do, and we're going to do this every day. And that sounds motivating, but again, if you have a really, really tight schedule where you're packing something to do every single day, let's see, 12, 4, 10, 6, okay. And you have something scheduled every day where you have a certain time where you have to maybe eat, work, do something during lunch, and maybe you try to be super efficient about it, right? It's like, oh yeah, every day for lunch I'm gonna be reading or something like that. And then when I drive, I'm gonna listen to an audiobook and learn an instrument, and when I get home, that's all good and dandy. But when you're looking at the daily schedule, when you're doing it hour by hour, you shouldn't necessarily do that. Instead, you should just look at the absolute bare minimum needs, right? Which is a bit of a different, I think, approach than maybe some people would say when it comes to time management. But again, time management shouldn't be something that you're super stressed out about and thinking that you're constantly missing deadlines and then you kind of give up on the process. That's a great way to kind of set yourself up to really high standards and not meeting them. Instead, you kind of want to build up on a very basic level and then work towards it and kind of see your progress over time. So, for example, if you were to look at maybe a 24-hour clock, right? Or a calendar. How would I do this? How would I do this? Let's kind of go like this. Let's put 4 here, 4 there. So that's 20 left. Here's 10. Here's 5, and here's 5. Yeah, it looks good. Alright. So instead of having a jam-packed schedule that you're setting every day, and when you first start to look at time management, instead think about what is the absolute necessities, and these are the things that you should not compromise, and these are your needs. Again, there's a lot of things that people would think that they need to do, and maybe you have some obligations and some responsibilities, and in a sense, yes, it is something that you would need to do. However, I'm talking about like biological needs, right? Because, it's all fine and dandy if you think like, oh yes, I have to get into work every single day at this time, and it has to be at this number, but like, if your car breaks down or something, or there's some kind of emergency, or you're sick or whatever, then that's kind of a bit more of a nebulous thing, right? So when it comes to daily time management, I would first start with your absolute basics. So something like sleep, and then if you look at the 5 hours here, again, this is a poorly drawn example, right? But it is an example that I guess someone could use. Eat, how long would it take someone to eat? Out of these 5 hours, probably not all of it. Maybe just like 1 to 2, and then you got 3 here. Now, again, part of eating is a lot of people make time for eating, right? When it comes to things like, breakfast or lunch or dinner. And that might be one part of it. But when you're really looking at granular time management, especially with how your body needs it, it's not just the part where you like put the food in your mouth. That's only like a part of time management where you would actually be eating. What's an easy to draw food? Cheese. It's just so easy. Alright. There's also other parts of the eating process which, may make common sense, but it's like meal prepping. And whether that's prepping for the day, for the week, for just that one meal. And then there's also using the facilities. Because, you know, when you put in food, it comes out. But also, if you really want to manage your time, trying to look at what you do during those times would kind of help you understand how much time are you actually spending, right? So say, for example, if you think, oh yeah, I only spend like 10 minutes eating. I can wolf down my food and that's fantastic, right? But then if you spend like maybe an hour cooking and then you don't know where all the time went, and then if maybe you're having issues and then you're spending a lot of time in the bathroom or you're reading, then you realize that you actually maybe have wasted like a couple hours of the day on something that you feel like you need, and you probably do need, but maybe it could have been done more efficiently. So a part of this isn't just necessarily scheduling for these things, but also having a deal of reflection on what it is that you do. Now, of course, there's good shortcuts and there's bad shortcuts to this kind of time, right? Good shortcut to meal prep is to prep way in advance. So something like prepping per week or for the day, or maybe even something that's simple where you have a meal that's made overnight and then you would eat it the next day, right? So home cooking and managing that time and looking at what you make, how long you take, that would give you a more accurate number to work with, because that's probably what you're going to do for the most part, right? To save money, at least. If you have the funds, or if you don't care for... Oh, yeah, slow cooking. Oh my goodness, this is great. Lasts forever. Ah, juicy meat. Oh man, you're making me hungry. But yes, meal prepping and home cooking, oh, especially with the slow cooker, totally recommend it. Sorry, drooling. Okay, yes, that is one excellent way in which you can meal prep and save a lot of time because it's passive cooking. In fact, oh, I should cover that too. Active versus passive. Okay. Ooh. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. Do I have enough time to cover all this? I think I do. Okay, sure. So, meal prepping, active versus passive. I'll cover that in a bit. Anyways, another shortcut that people would take to save time on meal prepping is just to either go out to eat or buy fast food. Again, if you have the funds, right, and you have a personal chef or whatever, go for it, right? Invest in yourself. But if you don't have that money to kind of go out to eat every time, then don't spend it. And again, it's not quite sitting down at a restaurant, I would say, would save you time because you still have to wait for the person to make it, order it, you have to socialize. That would cut in time. And that's not to say that you shouldn't do this, it's to say that consider that as a factor in which you do food, right? It's not just, oh yeah, we're gonna go out to eat and it'll be a quick bite. No, we have to wait there, wait in line, talk to people, hang out, maybe do something afterwards. Understanding yourself would understand where that time is actually disappearing to. And the bathroom is just kind of a silly example that I threw in there, but you know, I know that a lot of people like to be on reading or on their phones, or they like to, I don't know, do stuff. So to that end, you know, consider how much time you actually spend in these places and how your health is as well too, because some time can be disappearing into that. So there's that. And also, could I copy this? This isn't just like a one-time event, right? It's a necessary event, and it happens a couple times during the day. Yeah, there we go. Good enough. Alright. So be aware that when you're really looking at how much time you're spending each day and you're looking at the absolute necessities, you're spending that time maybe 2 to 3 times a day. Again, it depends on your diet and your habits. It could be more, it could be less. I don't know. And when looking at the 24-hour, right, really this is kind of the necessities. And I think when you're looking at that, this is the spaces where you can find the most time. Now, of course, there's other things that you would consider too, and it depends on your employment and what kind of things you have, right? So something like work and school. A lot of people would just consider, okay, well, there's the time in which I work, which Well, let's do it standard, right? Well, what's a 9 to 5? Like that one song. Now, a lot of people consider, okay, well, this is the amount of time in which I have for school, and then you would write that down as your 24-hour clock. But that's not technically true, right? And the reason why is because there's a little bit of extra padding and a little bit of extra time before and after. And that could be something like commuting, right? So your commute and your drive would actually add time before and after your start times. And I think that's something that someone should consider. I mean, of course, if you're being responsible and getting your job on time, you are probably well aware that there is time in which you would need to get from one place to another. And depending on the nature of the work, your commute can be as short as, if it's a virtual class or virtual work, then you just open up the computer, start it up. It's like 5-minute commute to get out of bed, right? Easy. Maybe not even. For some people, it can be a commute as maybe up to like 2-3 hours of driving, something wild, right? Yeah, so exactly. An hour to work. All right, I like that number. I'm going to use it. 1 hour. Nice. Alright, so you got 1 hour in between those times, and that is time that you have to move and do stuff, right? You're on the drive, you're on the go. Now, that time though, even though you feel like it is being used and is being in a sense lost, maybe not quite. And to go back to the earlier example, there's ways in which you can use your time to be more active and be more passive. Usually this is used in terms of things like workflows or things like income, but it can also be used in things like personal time management, where an active is where something might take your full attention. So let's see. How do I draw a brain? Ooh. Yeah, that looks like a brain. How do I draw a body? Alright. Where it takes both of those. And then something that's passive might either take one or none of those. And it just kind of happens on its own. Eh. So, for example, going back to the slow cooker, right? That is something where maybe it's active for just a small amount of time, where you have to focus on what you're doing and your body's doing it, but then it is passively cooking. It's something very different than something like where you have to look over a stove, where you're constantly having to check the temperature, where you're constantly having to fiddle with it or stir it or whatnot. It just kind of does its thing. And as much time as you can get, try to make as many activities as possible if you really want to look at, again, the day-by-day clock, to be as passive as possible. So that is an excellent example of meal prepping becoming a passive activity, right? And another example is maybe your commute, depending on how you commute, is also possibly a passive activity. So if it's something like where you're running, or if you are bicycling, maybe not so much. Or it depends on the route, right? If it's a nice, clean, safe route, then maybe it could be more passive, wherein you don't have to really focus on where you are and traffic flows. And then it could be something where your mind is passively not engaged with the entire process. In that way, that is where I've heard some people do things where they could maybe listen to an audiobook or do something else. Personally, what I like to do is during my commute is I like to listen and review my own VODs. And so that's something that I actually do to kind of listen to, how's the audio, how's the volume, where can I get clips from, sounds like that. And so, yes, that's not an everyday thing, right? Maybe that'd be a calendar activity. But it's something that I would schedule as part of using that passive activity. So even though that time might be lost on, let's say, during the work week, where here we have the commute, for maybe one of those commutes for the day, it's VODs. There we go. Checking that out. And then once you do that once you're able to find out you can do something like, maybe just listen to music or maybe listen to an audiobook or something that you feel is, it could be productive, it could be totally unproductive, right? And maybe you could just sing to yourself. Maybe, in fact, there could be many days in which you don't want sound at all. That is totally fine. You want to commute in silence, that's cool too. But that means it is also a passive activity, and so then what you're actually engaging in is maybe daydreaming or just thinking or something like that. And you could say that to yourself, like, be honest, like, hey, that's what I dedicate my time to. I like to dream. Let's just put that here just so we could have it. And then quiet. Or, you know what? Let me put here music. And then here, audiobook. So by kind of utilizing that time, again, if you were only to look at the 24-hour clock, you would think, okay, every single day at this time, whenever I commute on this path, I would need to do this thing. But that is not necessarily the case. If you were to schedule that time and realize it as passive time in which you could be doing something else, then and if you look at maybe a week or a longer period of time, then you might realize, oh, well, there's actually a variety of activities I could do. One, I could do VOD reviews. Some I could just daydream and relax and not think about anything. Some days I could try to listen to new music, and maybe one day a week I could listen to an audiobook. And so that is kind of the secret technique for when people have fancy time management. It's not necessarily that they do the same thing every day. It's just that during a longer period of time, they realize that this is free time, and then they make efficient use of it, not all the time, but some of the time. And some of the time is more than none of the time. Yeah. Oh boy. Alright, by the way, how am I doing on time? Pretty good. Alright. So there's that. And so when looking at the, main schedule, and I'm jumping back to this, sorry about that. You should look at what is really important. Now, of course, work and school are a lot of huge things for people. What about things that are important to yourself, right? Like games. Are games really that important? Well, unlike a lot of business gurus, I would say yes. But you wouldn't classify it as game time, right? I would say something like free time. Because I think it's important to not only schedule, if you're being honest, to schedule for yourself, is have time in which you have time for things to be okay, or things to mess up, or time to just have padding in case something gets longer or shorter, but also if you just don't want to do anything for that day, right? Because time management shouldn't be something that you have to follow a robotic schedule. It's more just like a general tool that you would use to have like a framework to improve the way in which you do things in a very long scope of time. And so if you have this kind of free time set up per day, then you could also do something with that if you want to, right? So if you just have it as like free time, you could classify it to however you want to be, right? Maybe this will be our free time slot. And maybe sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to be responsible. I'm going to work out, right, for these days. Now, it's not exactly using your free time. You're making it time to work out now. But as long as you have it for only partially and not completely, then I would still say it's generally free time. Because think of it this way, right? If you actually schedule time to do nothing for those rest of those days, again, you could be super efficient if you want. You could say, okay, work out, and then this day I'm going to do laundry at this time, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. But if you just kind of leave it as free time, then when you look at the long span of a week and you see the calendar, then you can realize, okay, well, I did work out on, I didn't work out on this day and I was supposed to, and I did work out on this day and did work out on this day. What am I going to do? Did I mess up? Well, you have free time. So then maybe on the next day you could also do that as well and kind of make up for it. if you got the discipline to do it, and then can kind of get you back on track to what you want to do. There's no guilt because you have nothing else scheduled. But if you were to actually fill up that thing with a bunch of other things that you would consider to be very responsible and that you absolutely have to do, well, then you're kind of stressing yourself out unnecessarily. You're losing that free time that you have. And the free time, generally, I would say, is kind of the fun time. It falls more under wants. But wants is, I mean, like, how do I put this? Want is something that... No, wait, I'm saying this wrong. Okay, let me backtrack a bit. I would say that you need to have free time as part of your daily schedule. It doesn't necessarily have to be specific. It doesn't have to be designated. It doesn't have to be, perfect every time. But it does need to be set aside for that. Sleep, food, facilities, free time, and then work and school. And then, of course, if you have family obligations, well, then that kind of just fills in the gaps, or, maybe covers the free time as possible. And of course, there's that. Sometimes it might cut into sleep too, and you might be tempted to cut into sleep as well for various reasons. Again, it's a fluid thing, right? This is not supposed to be a hard schedule that you follow for every day, just most days. Because that way, if you look at the calendar week, then you think if I did it most of the time, then I still did it, and that kind of counts. And then it becomes a habit thereafter, and then you'll have the feeling of, oh, I don't want to miss it. I actually really enjoy this. It's pretty great, Now, that being said, when you look at the week, going away from the hourly calendar, which you can, again, schedule however you want, this is a very, very imperfect way to do it. But less than the actual technique in which to do it, I would say just have the mindset to schedule for bodily necessities, and having free time to do nothing is part of that process. That's a big takeaway there. When you're looking at the week calendar, this is kind of where you kind of look at wants. Now, what would wants be? Wants, I think, would not consider necessarily free time or just having fun. It's more like, what are these long-term goals you kind of want to have for yourself, right? And it's not necessarily like all these 10-year, 5-year plans. It's more like, man, what's a really good show that I want to watch, right? I want to exercise. I want to read a book. I want to go out with friends more. Things like that, right? And then that's kind of where you would, instead of looking at the daily thing and make it a daily habit, instead you kind of look at a weekly thing, and you kind of measure on how important is this thing to you, right? Now, of course, with a properly filled calendar, it doesn't really look this empty. In fact, it might look something more like how do I do it? Actually, no, I could just use the one I have. Well, let's just draw on it. Let's see, there's a big block used up here. Big block here. Time on the edges. Just all this time that's kind of cut out for all these important things, right? And then when looking at that, you might realize, okay, so actually maybe for typically, right? I assume people might have weekends free. So you would have much more free time on the weekends. But then not only that, you also have these kind of gaps in the days, or maybe even a gap in the middle of one day. And it's actually the evening that's filled up. It could look funky, it could look whatever you want, right? But this will kind of give you an idea of, by looking at a week, of, well, then what is it that I want to do and how can I make it fit into my schedule? And now, of course, there's always the recommended ideals of what people would want, right? Which I think workout's actually a fantastic example. So when it comes to working out, there's usually a bunch of different ideas. It's like, okay, I have to work out every day, or I have to work out 3 days, or I have to work out 4 days, or 5 days, whatever, right? Well, how about just starting with one? if you've never done it before, just at least try for one, right? Just try for 1 day a week, and make a measured amount of time for it, and then see how it is. Because maybe that's the case, right? Maybe your current schedule for this week, or for many weeks, is that you only have 1 day a week in which you really, really have time to be able to get to the gym. You have access, or maybe not even a gym, right? Maybe it's a home gym. Maybe like calisthenics. Yeah, good stuff. And it's let's just say it's this day, right? This is muscle day. Boom. And of course, maybe you do have free time for these other days, right? Maybe you do have that extra time, but you don't have the discipline quite yet. Of course, start somewhere, right? Personally, I would like to start with a 3-day and just kind of go from there, or at least you know, like an hour, and try to work with that, and then go for that day by day by day. But here, let's say for example, if you're just barely starting something out, a book, an exercise, even learning about exercise, right? Try it out first, sample it. Maybe this day you call it exercise day and time, but it's actually try stuff time. So this will be the time in which you look at the calendar, we can accomplish what you want, which is maybe physical fitness. You see how it is. How is the commute? How is the time to get there? How is the time when you did the exercise? Were you able to go the full length of time? Did you just kind of stop halfway? Did you want to go further? Was it not enough? Yeah, it depends on you and your body, right? Sometimes if someone's just starting out, they might set aside like a full hour and they can only go like 10 minutes. And you know what? That's fine. You know, just at least you dedicate that time to it, right? But then what if you try it again the next week and the week after, and you realize, man, you know what? I think my limit is just like 10 minutes. But you know what? It's not bad. It's not bad at all. And then I get winded after 10 minutes, but that's what I can do. And I really want to do this more, and it's really not that much time. And I just maybe like go for a walk. Well, I'll walk around the neighborhood, right? Cool. Well, then now you really kind of be able to look at that time that you use and make a better measurement of it. Because maybe you had this big chunk of time that you dedicated to this activity. And instead of making a daily habit, you just had it as a try stuff time. But you're only using it like a little bit. And then you could use that tiny sliver of time and fit it somewhere else. And then maybe you realize, hey, you know what? You know, the weather's pretty nice in the mornings when I wake up. Because I wake up at the crack of dawn. And so maybe if I just try like a little walk around the neighborhood, just, you know, a couple days a week, then that might be good. And then when it becomes a couple days like, you know what? I really like this. It's really fun. Get to see the birds and the bees. Get to just kind of enjoy the day. And that becomes a daily habit where all of a sudden you find yourself developing a new habit of like going on a neighborhood walk for 10 minutes every morning. And now you're exercising way more than you would have done if you tried to schedule for like a full hour and was discouraged and then felt like you didn't have enough time for it because the commute was too much. Nah. You're fine. You're working at your own pace, and you started with something. So by using this kind of time as like a try stuff time for something like that, and I use exercise as an example because it's kind of a common one which I hear a lot of people say that they want to do. But the ones who stick with it are very few and far in between. But you know what? That happens, right? There's other tips and tricks, and I believe Sklimbo, he's the guy. He's the guy you want to check out that will give you the real good advice on that. But when it just comes to personal discipline and time management on yourself, just have it try stuff time, right? Now, similarly, what if you just want to try something different, right? What if you already have that settled and you just want to try to do something else? Yeah. He's a pretty cool dude. Great new model too. But yeah, if you want to try something else completely different, right? Like learning a language or reading a book, it doesn't have to be a daily activity, right? Daily activities are things in which you already know that you have the desire to do in your heart, and it's already a habit. Weekly activities is something that you just want to try to become that kind of level of habit. Just try it once a week, on a weekend, on a day in which you have off, on an afternoon in which the weather's nice, whatever, right? So maybe trying to learn a new language, or reading a book. Now again, those are positive examples, like super optimistic. It doesn't have to be, right? Like what if you just want to watch an anime that you've been putting off for a very, very, very long time? I think that's fine. Yeah, go for it, man. You've been feeling like you wanted to watch it and you haven't had the time for it. And here's the thing. Like, as long as it's not kind of eating up your daily time and stuff like that, and you have a designated slot in which you say, all right, I want to try to binge this anime or new seasonal anime once a week, during this time frame. That's fine. Yeah, go for it. That's what the weekly schedule's there for. It's for not just the positive life-building habits, but also kind of the slop that everyone enjoys. So it could be, there's that. Now, should you use that for every time? I don't know. That's up to you. I like to imagine the try stuff time as kind of like a wand that kind of rotates into being a habit. So if you realize that, oh, okay, well, I want to watch this anime, and I'm having this kind of time during the week to designate to that, then that's less of a try stuff time. That becomes more of a weekly schedule habit, and then you just kind of set that side at a time. And of course, as all things, it doesn't have to be super flexible. It doesn't have to be super rigid. You know, if you have a wonderful opportunity to do something else, and you're just like, no, I can't do it. I have my animes. That's up to you, right? It's your values and principles. But I would say, keep your schedules flexible if it's something new and cool. And that's why I try to use the try stuff time for. Now, finally into the month, right? Whew. How do you manage time for a month? Well, I think one of the best examples I gave was kind of taking care of yourself on a very, very long-term scale, right? So something like going to the doctors, going to a dentist, getting health checkups, I guess, generally. But not only that, right? It maybe like trips, opportunities. I would say, like, if hanging out with friends isn't a thing that you can do every week, then maybe it's something you could do once a month, right? Maybe if there's like a game night and everyone has their crazy schedules and they can't all get together and you can't all get it together, then maybe you say like, all right, the monthly schedule, that is time management to do this one thing, game night, boom. With a group of people, and then you kind of look at your month for that. Now, of course, when you do these things, you kind of have to zoom in each time, right? So you're like, okay, this is the day for game night. Then you zoom in. All right, here's what I got scheduled for the day. That's my audiobook day. Am I gonna miss that? Well, I mean, I did it for like literally all these other days. So if I miss one, it's gonna be totally fine, right? You'll have that kind of perspective of where you won't feel like as if you'll need to do something all the time because you already have it scheduled and you know that you'll resume that once this is over. Cool. So it's not kind of like a loss, it's kind of just trading one activity for another within that time. And in that way, rather than just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, which is very hard and requires a lot of discipline to do, you have kind of a wider variety of things that you do, not just, within the week, but also within the month as well. And of course, month goes into years. Now, would you look into a year thing for time management? Yes and no. So I would say yes, if it's about like saving money. If you have like these kind of long-term plans for something like retirement or saving money for a trip or something like that, then yes, you would look at, months and years. But for time specifically, I would say not really, because you really want to kind of go by the months and the weeks and the days. Because yes, there might be an event that you have planned in the 6 months from now, right, for that year. That's 8 months or 12 months, whatever, right? That's totally fine. And unless it's like a big to-do, well, even if it is a big to-do, right? Usually going it month by month will give you enough time to kind of go over it. Again, use your best judgment. If it's something like big and expensive, like a wedding or something, then yeah, you kind of want to plan out a bit more details way in advance. But if it's something like a dentist and they say come back in 12 months, like, whatever. Yeah, okay, sure. Mark it on the calendar and forget it. It's more like set and forget it. Now, something I didn't really get to go much into more of that I wanted to was more active versus passive, right? I kind of went over that with the daily thing, but how do you do that with the weekly thing? Well, I think it's a bit of a mindset shift. in that rather than something that is active, you would consider it by how much time or how many days during the week you put into it would be how you should look at it. For example, during this free time, if you do use part of the free time for something that's not free time, then realize that it's not actually free time. Say, for example, if you have someone that you talk to, right? A friend. And you talk to them during your free time during one day, and then another day, and then another day, and then another day, and then another day, and then it kind of bleeds over, and then now you're just talking to them at this time every single day, right? Then you should realize that that is now an active activity, and that's something that's kind of taking up that time, and that's a new thing that's eating up that time slot. Now, how do you manage that? It requires, again, a bit of a mind shift, because if you think of it, it's active, where you have to pay attention, right? But depending on the mode in which you talk to them, it could be a bit passive, or it could be even more active, right? I think a great example is, like, if you're just talking to someone, and then you're doing something else, then that's probably not a good idea because you're not giving them their full attention, unless, of course, you're doing the something else together. The great example would be, say, for example, you're talking to someone on the phone, and if you are spending that time with them by playing a game, so I guess like Discord? Yeah, like a Discord call and you're gaming with them, and it's just like a thing you do every day. Well, then now that's a weekly thing, and then depending on how important that is to you, then that could be like a daily thing, right? So that's kind of where it kind of melds and shifts from something where it is something that's like kind of a want, then it becomes like a need, and then now it's just an everyday sort of thing. And now it's active where you're both thinking and doing the same thing together. Sorry if I'm rambling a bit, but I think what I'm trying to bring up is that these schedules can be very flexible as your life changes and grows. They're a good habit and they're a good thing to review. And in fact, one thing I would say is if you do look at a month schedule, have like a day where you just review stuff. Okay, that looks very badly spelled. But I think what might be a good habit is maybe once a month, just like how you would schedule for a doctor's appointment, right? Just how you'd schedule something for your physical health, and you kind of take care of that. You should schedule something for your I guess, mental health? I don't know, time? Are you using your time? Are you stressed out? Do you feel like you don't have enough time? Then review all this stuff. Review what are you doing day by day, week by week, month by month, and see, did the things shift? How has it shifted? Did you slip into bad habits? Have you gotten into new good habits? Has things changed in your life where now all this needs to completely change, or is it just one or two little things? Designating a time during the month calendar for that, and realizing how actively are you engaging in each of these activities. Is it something that you really want to be doing? Is it something that you'd rather be doing passively, or something else, right? Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good example. Oh boy. All right, it is time. Whew. All right. Did I cover all that? Again, I'm sorry that this was kind of less formal than I would have liked it to be. I lost my notes, so I'm just kind of booking it on what I vaguely remember. I know that there's like little cool formulas and things like that you could kind of figure out your time, and there's the whole thing about the big rocks and the medium rocks and the sand and whatever, right? It's all business productive strategies. But I think this is a nice informal way to kind of look at what you're doing and how to manage your time, and it involves a great deal of kind of self-reflection, right? Just like you would invest time into a new activity, invest time into how you invest time would make you spend it more better and be better at it and manage it much more efficiently. And so that way you don't feel like as if you're constantly running out of things to do. You have more time for things. Oh, yeah, now I remember. Okay, really quick. Active versus passive. Commuting can be one example. I know that a kind of a, I shouldn't say bad way, a common way in which people would kind of use it is when they're in the facilities. That's why I brought it up. Yeah. Silly note to end it on. If someone's like, if you're constantly finding yourself reading in the bathroom, think about that. Think about how you're spending that time, right? because maybe it's something that you are spending too much time doing, or maybe it's something that you're not spending enough time doing, or maybe it's something that you want to have like really focused. Like, all right, how would that even work? Sorry, now I'm just wildly speculating. What would be something like read a chapter of a book while you're on the pot? It's a crazy idea. It's absolutely insane, right? But I mean, I guess that's a way in which you're using that kind of passive time where you're just literally sitting there, not really thinking, and using it to do something that you want to accomplish in a measured amount of time. Yes. Doom scrolling on Twitter. Okay, well, yeah, all right. Well, oh, doom scrolling. Okay, yeah, I guess there is worse ways. But yes, maybe that's a way in which you should reflect on how you spend that time, right? And if you think, man, how much time do I actually spend doom scrolling? And then you realize, oh wait, I do it not just every time I use the bathroom, but when I wake up and before bed, and you could count those minutes and hours and just realize, it's been like 4 hours of doom scrolling a day. No wonder I feel terrible. And so then, by looking at time management, you're actually correcting that to something else. I don't know. But yeah, there we go. That's a silly example of time management. Again, this doesn't all have to be serious. But I think that's all I got for today. Next week we'll be back to regularly scheduled math. I think exponents. Yeah. So sorry if it's a bit more dry, but I'll try to make it fun. Until then, hey, thank you, Trent. It's been a joy having you. I'm glad you've been able to stay up. I hope you're managing your sleep and your time well. And then I'll see everyone else next week. Have a good one. And again, thanks for coming.